This conference will now be recorded.
So in our previous class, we were working with local actions, right? So there will be two types of actions, that is connector flow action as well as the local action. So both are meant for holding this section only. Okay, if we just load one section and if it is being called on the connector, that will be called as a connector flow action. Okay, and that will be responsible for moving the work object ID from one place to another place. There will be cases where we don't want to move the work object ID even if we just click on submit button of the section. So in that case, we'll be going for local actions. If I just create any of the thing, we can able to see one live example like attachment section. Okay, so that will be considered as a local action only. Why? Because on attaching the details, the work object will not be moved to the next screen. So all these kind of things will be considered as an local actions. So if we see here, if I just click on this, we can able to see one pop-up coming. On submitting the details, we will not be having. So let me create one. Okay. So the thing here is, if I just click here, we can able to see something. So on clicking on attach or on submitting this flow action or the local action, we will not be moving the work object ID to the next screen. If I just use live UI, we can able to see it will be something like a local action. So we can able to see the flow action and just open the flow action. Okay, so here we can able to see that it will be considered as a local action. Okay, so in this kind of scenarios, we'll be going for local actions. So if I just click on, if I just attach any document, it will be automatically uploaded here. So wherever we go within the work object ID, we will be having all these details, all the work object details seen. So let us discuss few details about attachments now. So we thought of discussing the same in the previous classes only. When we're working with attachments, you will not be understanding more when we discuss about that. So that's what we're trying to discuss it now. So if I just create any of the work object, if I just attach any of the document within the work object ID, it will be visible. It will be visible across all the till the end of our transaction. So that is the reason we are seeing it here. If at all, if I just click on clipboard, I should be seeing the attachment details as well, right? Why? Because that attachment is also part of work object ID. All the work object ID details I should be seeing in the clipboard as well as in the database. This is already known. So we know all the work object data. So any of the data we enter here or anything related to August 17 has to be stored into work page only. This is already known. So if we just see here, we will not be seeing anything related to attachments. Okay, so all the work object data except the attachments will be stored in the work page. But where these attachment details will be stored in the clipboard? So that will be the question. Okay, so except the work object details, sorry, except the attachment details within the work object, all the things will be stored into work page only. But the but the attachment details will be stored into two other places in the clipboard. So that is py attach page. So there will be one OOTB page called py attach page, which will be referring to data work attach file. So this is the class. So if I just open this, we should be having one instance. Why? Because we're having only one attachment, right? It should be having one instance. So it's taking time.
Yeah, it's okay. This member ID 3H must populate only for horizontal, not for Michelin.
Okay, so we'll see after some time. So the attachment details, what we're attaching, it will be stored into two places. That is py attach page, which will be referring to one class, and the next place is it will be stored the same into data pages as well. So if I just open this, there will be one OOTP page called d underscore attachment list. So the first thing we can able to see this details here. Okay, so this is the attachment detail. So this is the place where we can able to see the attachment details. If I just click here, we can able to see its attachment details. Okay, so this is the name, this is the image, and these are all the things. These are all the details related to our work attachment. if at all if we're having two attachments, we'll be having two px results. Okay, so each and everything has to be considered as in one instance meaning one separate page. So here it will be having it in multiple as in multiple results. So now PRPC will be creating in the two separate pages. So that is d underscore attach list as well as py attachment page. Okay, this is the things we have to understand. So here this particular page will be referring to one class called link attachment. Okay, so this is the class where we can able to have the attachment details, and similarly we will be finding the same kind of attachment details in one class called data work attach. Let me open that. So data work attach file. Okay, so ultimately it will be holding in the two different pages, and if we have any page in the clipboard, it has to be having two different classes. So this is one class and that is another class. So if we have any data related to the class, it should be having one page, one database table created. Okay, so the same details we should be finding in the database table which is linked to this class. So there will be one table which will be connected to this class, and we should be having the same attachment details in that table also. Okay, so ultimately we will be having two different tables created in the database. All the work object data will be stored into work class, but attachment details will be stored into two other tables, that is one table connected to this class as well as the table which is connected to link attachment class. Okay, so why PRPC is creating in two different places? So just for the memory segregation. So we already know the structure of clipboard, right? So consider this is our Pega PRPC user interface, and this is our clipboard, and here it will be storing it in the it will be having one defer queue as well as in the database. So this is the thing. So once the data has been submitted in the user interface, it will be automatically pushed to clipboard. This is also known. So once the data is getting committed, data will be moved from defer queue to database. So this is also known. So if the work object ID, what I'm just creating now, the data has to be follow this path. It has to start from user interface to our database. But the attachment details, which are also the part of work object ID, will not be stored into our worker class or the database table. Instead, it will be created in two separate classes. Okay, so the one class which is related, sorry, one table which is related to the class called link attachment, and another table which is linked to the class called data work attach file. So let me identify the table names of this particular class. Link attachment. So this is one of the class which will be having all the instances of the attachments. Just click here. We should be getting the instances. So these are all the instances having work object ID, sorry, attachments. So if any class is having instances, it should be having one table connected to that. So just click on definition and click on test connection. So this is the table. Okay. So this is one of the table name. And similarly, there should be one more table also that is linked to class called data work attach file. Okay, so this is the class what we have seen there, and it should be having one table connected to that. So this is the name of the table. So PRPC will be creating the data in two different tables. So as soon as we click on submit button in the user interface screen, it will be stored into clipboard. Then after it has to be moved to database table. In between defer queue will be there. And once the data has been completely submitted to the database, it will be identifying in the work table whether the particular work object ID is having attachments or not. So if this particular blob is having attachments for this particular record, then the blob data will be pushing the same data of attachments into two other tables, that is PC link table as well as the data work attach. Okay, so this table will be having all the details of the attachment. So if I just create one thing like chg1, okay, so whenever the chg1 data is getting stored into blob format in this database table, then one new trigger will database creation trigger will be created. So because of this trigger, it will be copying the data, it will be pushing the data of of the attachment into this table first. That is chg1 data work object, chg1 work object details attachments will be stored in this table first, and then after it will be stored here also. So what is the purpose of creating in two different tables? So this will be considered as a main table. Main table meaning it will be having all the work attachment details, as well as it will be having one copy of the attachment as well. But here we will be just having the attachment details. We will not be having any attachments here. We will not be having Word document or the notepad, anything. So we'll be just having the information. So like file name, file type, file memory, so creation date. So these kind of information will be having it. But in this table, we will be having the memory also, where we can able to find the Word document. So this is the place where we'll be getting everything stored. Okay. So once we click on submit button, this particular work table is responsible for triggering the work attachments data to be pushed to two other tables. If at all, if I'm trying to open the existing instance, that is chg1, so chg1 is already created with one attachment that will be stored here and here as well. So now if I'm trying to open the chg1 from the user interface, so what PRPC will be doing, it will be pulling out the blob from the table and it will be putting it in the clipboard, and from there we can able to see the same. But now if it is having any attachments, what it has to do, whenever we are trying to pull out the data from blob, so it will be having one link here, chg1 and chg1. So this particular work object ID is having attachments here, right? So this work table is responsible for triggering the database tables, either in the pulling as well as the storing the data. So whenever we're pulling the data, it will be pulling the instances from these tables also. Okay, so here we can able to get the attachment details from this table, as well as the attachment file from here, and we can able to see the same here. So if I just close this, and if I'm trying to open the same thing, so what PRPC has to do, we have to get all these details loaded from the work table, as well as parallel it will be pulling out the data from these two tables. Okay, so all these details, so the name, the file type, everything, all these details will be stored from this table. So now if I just click on this, then automatically we should be having that downloaded. Okay, so on clicking on this, where should we getting this original file? We'll be getting this original file stored from this table, right? So in this kind of scenarios, we'll be getting this table used. Okay, so this table will be having the main copy, and on clicking on this, we'll be getting it downloaded. So in the clipboard, we'll be having it stored in two pages, that is py attachment page as well as d_attachment list. Okay, so clear about attachments.
It's really the observation story.
So that is the reason we can able to see the section. So where is that section? So I just opened that section, right?
రేపు డిప్లాయ్ చేయొచ్చు కదా అబ్జర్వేషన్ అంటే ఎక్కువ టైం ఉంది కదా. ఓకే ఉంటాను. ఓకే.
So that is the reason we will be having one section called py attachment screen. If I just open this, whatever the attachments we are attaching, it has to be stored here, and we can able to see in the pages and classes this particular attachments will be stored into this class only. So data work attach file. So this is the main file, right? So I have deleted. So this is the main table, no? So as soon as we attach it, it will be stored here. Okay. So clear now? So we have discussed about the attachments and types of flow actions, and we have discussed about the circumstance. Okay. So if I just create circumstance, as I told you, it will be we can able to create multiple instances in the circumstance file. Okay. So PRPC has to pick always the latest one. I mean the appropriate one only. If I just have one base rule and 10 circumstance rules, based on the condition, PRPC has to pick up the circumstance one, and that it can be defined with the single property circumstancing or the multiple property circumstance. So now we'll discuss something about rule availability. Okay, clear now? As of now, any doubts? Clear, right? Both of you.
Yes.
So if I just open any of the rule, so by default it will be shown available. Okay, so if it is available only, we can able to have it for the processing. And if I just click here, we can able to see some other options. So we can able to have 5 options in the rule availability. In interviews they'll be asking you the questions on rule availability. So based on the selection, the behavior will be changed. Okay, if at all the rule availability type is available, then we can able to have one type of behavior. If it is not available, behavior will be changed. And if it is blocked, so based on this, for each and every selection there will be one significance, and behavior of this corresponding rule will be changed because of this. Okay, by default each and everything will be available, and if we just open some other things, it will be having like an blocked, some rules will be having like an final, and some will be not available also. So we'll discuss about all this. So for explanation purpose, let me unlock the rule sets. So we have just logged the rule set version number 1, right? So let me unlock the version number 1. So I'm opening this. So here we are using version number 2 only. Version number 1 is completely locked off. I'm trying to unlock it just for the explanation purpose. Submit this. So we have 2 versions available. So within this particular rule set, I can able to have rules created in the version 1 as well as in the version number 2. Okay, so now let me create one rule. So I'm trying to create one property. So I'm trying to create something like rule availability test, something like this. Okay, so I want to create it in the worker class. So I'm trying to create it in the worker class. Okay, so since I can able to create in the 2 versions, version number 1 and version number 2. So let me pick the highest version 1, highest version 2, that is. So create and open. So I want to create it like in radio button. So for radio button, we can able to give the localist values, right? So I'm trying to give it like something like in work 2. So since we are trying to create it in the work class and in the version number 2, so that is the reason I'm trying to give it like this. So I'm saving it. So I just created one radio button property, and it has been created in the implementation work class in the second version. That is the reason I gave it like work 2. Similarly, let me create one more property in the version number 1. So with the same name, I can able to have it in the multiple versions, right? So I'm trying to have the same name, and I'm trying to create in the version number 1. So create and open. So you'll be getting this, no problem. Click OK. So since this is being created in the version number 1, I just for the differentiation purpose, I'm giving like work number 1. Okay, work class number 1, version number 1. So I'm saving this. Okay, so again, let me create the same kind of property in its parent class, that is division class. So I'm saving this. So I want to create in its parent class, that is division. So division will be the parent to the unit, right? So I'm creating it in the version number 1 first. So since this is being created in the division 1, I want to give it like div1. So save it. So let me save as this to be created in the version number 2 as well. So I'm creating it at division 2. Okay. So what I have done, I have just created one property, that is rule availability test, in multiple versions. In the worker class, I have created in the 2 versions, as well as in the division class, I have created in the 2 versions. Okay. So now let me create one section. Okay. So let me create it in the work class. So I'm trying to create it in the latest version only. Create and open. So this is the version that has been created in the latest version, and here I can able to include the property, right? So since this is in the latest version 2, by default it will be picking up the latest version only. So I'm refreshing it. So I'm trying to pick up the I'm trying to use the created property. So I have created this property. So I'm using this. So if I just drag and drop, what are we getting? We are getting work2, meaning so the rule which is in the work class of the latest version 2. So let me save this. Okay, so we can able to see the rule picked up like in work2. So although I'm trying to have the same version rule availability test, I have the version I have the same rule in the version number 1, version number 2, and as well as in the division 1 as well as in the division 2. Sorry, in the division class version 1 and version 2. But from where are we requesting? We are requesting this particular rule from our work class. So PRPC has to look for the same rule in its class first. So that is the reason it is picking up from the version from the class of this. So it is picking up from this class first, and it will be finding 2 versions in this class, right? And that it has to pick the latest version only. So that is what it is doing. So work number 2. So if at all, if I'm trying to make it not available, so by default each and everything will be available. So I'm just trying to make it to not available. So let us see the behavior. I'm saving it. Okay, so work number 2, I mean the latest version in the work class is made not available, and just refresh this. So if I refresh this, what PRPC is picking up? PRPC is picking up the second highest version from the same class. Since the first version is not available, by default PRPC has to pick up the highest version only. In the same class, it has to pick up the highest version. So if the highest version is made not available, it is picking up the next highest version. So that is what we are saying. So in the same class, that is in the same work class, it is picking up the next highest version, that is version number 1. Suppose if I'm trying to make this next highest version also not available. Save this. So refresh. Let us see which rule it will be picking up. So it is picking up the latest version in the parent class. Okay, so initially it has to request for the rule in the same class, and in the same class, if it is having multiple versions, it has to pick up the latest version. If the latest version is made not available, it has to pick up the second highest version. Even if the second highest version is made not available, then it has to pick up the previous versions. So if all the versions are completed within the same class, it has to jump to the previous class. That is division here. Within this division, with the same rule name, it will be having multiple instances. There it has to pick up the highest version. So that is the reason we're getting division 2. If at all, if we're trying to make this division 2 also not available, we'll be having division 1 only. Even if division 1 is made not available, what it has to do, it has to just check for its parent classes like chg, and then after it has to check for the next rule set, then it has to check for the framework rule sets, then organization rule sets, sorry, then first organization rule set, then after framework, then it will be just checking all the OOTB rule sets still at the red base class. Then we'll be getting one warning error saying like no rule available. You can able to do that. You can able to make not available all this, and we will be finding no results found. Okay, so you understood the concept of not available, right? So if it is made not available, then the particular rule will be ignored. So the next highest version will be picked up. If at all, if the highest version is made available within the same class, this is made available. And if I'm trying to make not available for the low version rules, this will not be considered. Why? Because during runtime it has to pick up the highest version only, and here it will be checking whether the highest version is available or not. That's it. If it is available, it will be picking up. If it is not available only, it has to check for the previous things. Okay, clear? So now I'm trying to make it available all again. So if I refresh this, we should be getting work. Sorry. Okay, so this is the concept of not available. Suppose if I'm trying to make the highest version as withdrawn, so there is one more option called withdrawn. So I'm clicking on OK and saving this. So the highest version is made withdrawn, and the next highest version is made available, and all the rules are made available. Okay, so I'm refreshing it now. So if I refresh this, what we can able to see? We can able to see division 2 rule. Okay, so if any of the rule is being withdrawn, then PRPC has to ignore all the remaining versions of that particular class. Okay, so version 2 is made withdrawn, then version 1 it will be ignoring. Even in the version number 1 is made available, it will be completely ignoring. If I'm just having 10 versions in the same class, so if the 10th version is made with not available, the 10th version is made not available, it will be looking for the 9th version. Then after it has to check for the 8th version. But if at all, if the 10th version is made withdrawn, PRPC has to ignore the whole class. Even if the 9th version is made available also, it has to ignore the whole class. It will be ignoring the whole class, and it will be looking for the previous parent class, that is division class here. It will be picking up the available rule from the division class. So that is the reason we are getting division 2 picked up. Okay, so even if the version number 1, I mean the work 1 is made available also, this will not be picked up. So this is the difference between not available and withdrawn. If this is not available, only that particular rule will be ignored. If it is made withdrawn, the whole class will be ignored. That is important. Okay, suppose uh, suppose version number 2 of this same class is made withdrawn, it has to pick up the highest version of the next class. If at all the highest version is also made withdrawn of that particular class, then it will be ignoring that class as well. It has to just check for the parent class, that is CHG here. Okay, if I'm trying to make this final, so I'm just making it to final, so click on OK and save this. If I refresh, what we can able to see? We can able to see again the highest version is getting picked up. So meaning there is no difference between available as well as the final. If the highest version is made available or final, ultimately this will be picked up. Okay. So the difference here is if it is available, then we can able to make modifications on top of that rule. So if it is made available or final, behavior wise there will not be any change. If at all, if it is made final, we cannot able to make modifications on top of that rule. PRPC will be strictly considering that this rule should be final and no modifications are allowed. Okay, so one such example is send email notification. So if I just open send email notification, it will be available. So it will be made available. So that is the reason we can able to make use of this particular rule in multiple places. If I just want to use this rule into my rule set, I can able to save as this. So py default data transform. So we have just made modifications to the particular rule in order to change the py work id prefix. Okay, why? How can we make modifications to that? So that is made available. That is the reason we can able to make modifications. So any of the OOTB rule or any other rule, if it is made available, that rule is meant for modifications. We can able to save as this into our rule set and we can able to make modifications. But there will be rules where PRPC will be strictly marking those as a final. If it is made final, no other instance of that particular rule is allowed. So another example here is there will be one section called general. So just put live UI. Okay, so there will be one section called general. So if I just open this, we can able to see this rule as final. Okay, so you should not be making modifications to this operator rule form. Okay, any other rule can be made modified, but this operator form should not be modified. So that is the reason they are marking this as a final. If at all, if I'm trying to save as this, you select any of the rule set. So create and open. What we are getting? So this instance conflict with the final record. Okay, so this should be the final. No other modifications are allowed on top of this rule. So that is the warning error we're getting. So that is the concept of final. Behavior will be same. If it is available or final, behavior will be same. If it is made blocked, so the rule will be blocked off. Okay, the entire rule will be blocked off. PRPC, if any of the business is forcefully making it as blocked, then that particular rule should not be picked up. So that is the thing. Okay. Any doubts as of now? So available and final. So these will be considered as in positive scenarios where rule execution will be good, and rest all other rules like not available or withdrawn or blocked. So these will be of another category where it will be blocking the rule execution. So this will be of one category, this will be of another category. Okay, so based on this, behavior will be getting changed. Suppose if I have in implementation class, if I have version number 1, version number 2, and version number 3. I have one version, I have one rule with 3 versions. And in the division class, let us say I have version number 1 as well as version number 2 as well as version number 3. Okay, so if I'm trying to request for any rule from the implementation class, okay, by default PRPC has to pick up the highest version of this same class, no? So v3, I mean version 3 will be picked up for the processing. If version 3 is made not available, then during processing PRPC will be picking up the second version only, not the highest version. Even if this is made not available, it will be picking up the highest, I mean the next highest version, that is version number 1. Even if this is made not available, it will be picking up the next versions. Likewise, it has to just check for all the rule sets till the red base class. Okay, so it has to just check for all the rules within the same rule set. Once that rule set is completely done, we can able to see here. So it will be just checking for all the rules in this rule set. If this rule set is completely done, then it will be just jumping to the next rule set. So within this rule set, what are all the rules it is having, it will be just again checking. Again, it will be just checking in the organization rule sets. Then after, it will be checking the framework rule sets. Then after, it will be just checking in the OOTP rule sets. And finally, to at the red base class, it has to just check all the things. Okay. Suppose if the highest version is made withdrawn, the highest version is made withdrawn, then PRPC will be ignoring the whole class. Okay, the whole class will be ignored. It will be picking up the highest version of the parent class. If this is also made withdrawn, then this class also will be ignored. Then it will be picking up the next thing. If this is made withdrawn and v3 is available, let us say, then PRPC has no objection. It will be picking up the highest version only. But because the highest version is made withdrawn only, then we can able to have this thing. 1 second. If v3 is made final, then there will not be any change in the execution. We can able to see v3 picked up during processing. V2, V1, even if it is made available or withdraw not available, that will not be bothered. Okay, clear? Any doubts on the rule availability? So PRPC has to perform many things internally. So during one rule picking, PRPC has to follow one algorithm on top of this. So here in algorithm, it has to just check for multiple things. Okay, if any rule has to be processed, it will be having like in multiple instances. So one rule might be created in the multiple versions, and the first version may be made available or not available. It has to check for that also, and it has to just check for the highest version, whether it is made circumstance version or the base version. And the particular rule might be available in different rule sets and different classes. It might be available in the different applications as well. So if the first name property, what I'm trying to request, it might be having implementation one application as well as the implementation two also. Okay, so it has to perform many checks. So for each and every check, it has to run one algorithm. Okay, based on this algorithm only, correct rule has to be picked up and it has to move for the processing. Okay, so now we'll discuss something about rule authorization. So clear about rule availability?
Yes, sir.
So now we'll discuss about rule authorization. So what is rule authorization? As I told you, I might be having one rule in multiple applications. Okay, so the customer details section. So this section I might be having in my implementation application 1 as well as in the implementation application 2. If I'm trying to request for the same rule from here, what PRPC has to do? PRPC has to undergo many checks. It has to just check for the same class highest version, and if it is made available or not available, it has to just check for the previous classes. Then after, it has to just check for the another rule sets, and it has to just check for the application level, and it might be having the same rule available in some other applications also. If it is having the implementation to application, I should not be getting it here. Why? Because I am an operator who is given access only to this claims application, that's implementation one only. If I'm not given access to the second implementation application, I should not be getting any of the rules from that application, right? So that will be also taken care by PRPC. So for that, it will be looking after one more concept called rule authorization. Rule authorization is the process where the rules are to be picked up as per the authorization of the operator ID. So each and every operator has to be given with one authorization. So based on this authorization only, our rules picking as well as our application picking will be captured. Okay, suppose if I just log off from the screen, what I'll be getting just again login screen, so asking me to enter username and password. If I just enter my username and password, I'll be getting this application. Initially I'll be getting this admin portal as well as I'll be getting this application. If another tester or real user is logging with his operator ID, so ultimately login screen will be same for each and every one. If he's trying to log in with his operator ID, he will be getting direct to portal, that is like case worker portal. He will be getting this portal directly and he will be getting this screen. Okay, how PRPC will be knowing that I should be getting this screen as well as he should be getting that screen? Okay, but there should be some linkage with the operator ID only, right? So only that will be the option. Okay, so each and every operator has to be given with some authorization or the access. So based on this access only, the things will be decided by PRPC. Okay, I should be given access to the development portal, or I should be given access to the admin portal, and I should be given access to make modifications to any of the rules. So that will be decided based on my access group. Similarly, the other operator will be having another application linked, so like user portal or anything, so that will be considered as another portal. So he should be launched with another portal, and he should not be given access to modify any of the rules into development studio. Okay, so that will be decided based on the access group. So for each and every operator, there should be one thing called access group linked. Okay, based on this access group only, PRPC has to decide about the rule authorization. So let me open my operator ID. So if I just open my operator ID, I can able to see something called access group. Okay, so this is my name, this is the name of my application, and this is something like an administrator. So administrator is something like an access, so I will be considered as an administrator. And if any new developer coming, so if I just want to give only development access, he will be considered as an author. So if I just erase this and if I just click on down arrow, I can able to see So for this application, I have four roles, four axes. So one is administrator, another is authors, manager, as well as user. So users will be considered as in real-time users, and managers will be considered as in managers to the users, not manager to the developers. And these two are the real-time people. These two are the people who can able to access development studio. Okay. So if I just have administrator selected, so based on this access group, what PRPC is deciding for me, PRPC is deciding what application I should be getting. Okay. And what is the portal I have to launch. If it is administrator, I will be getting initially admin studio. If it is just another thing like user or manager, I should be getting its own portal. So everything will be decided here only. Okay. So what is present in here? So just open it. Open the access group. We can able to see the application name. Okay, so based on this access group only, what is the application I want to be launched, that will be decided here. So each and every access group will be given with only one application, and that will be available here. So this is the application name where PRPC will be identifying what application I have to be launched, and we will be having many portals. So for the administrator, he can able to have many things. He can able to have admin studio, and he can able to have development access. He can able to have manager as well as the user portals also. And these are all the portals what he is given access. So if you want to delete it, we can able to delete that also. Okay. And if anything selected here, that will be considered as a default. If I just mark this and save it, if I just log off and log in, I will not be getting admin studio by default. All the time I will be launched with this development studio only. So this is the dev studio. It will be launched by default automatically. If at all, if you want to shift it, he can able to do that. Okay. And if I want to remove the real portal access to the administrator, you can just simply delete it. He cannot able to launch those portals. So everything will be decided based on this access group only. So one access group will be having one application with multiple portals. Okay. So that particular based on the access, we can able to decide the portal for him. And here we can able to have its roles. Okay. We can able to have something like a super administrator or the normal administrator. So that will be decided as per your business. So this is the concept of access group. So one user can able to have multiple access groups also, but one access group will be having only one application. One user can able to have multiple access groups, and one access group can have multiple operators as well. So if I'm considering myself as a project manager, then I should be given access to multiple applications under my project. So I'll be having 4 or 5 implementation applications, and I should be given access as an administrator to all the all the projects, all the applications. So we can able to add each and everything here. Okay. So if at all on launching this, if I want to have this implementation to application, you mark that. That's it. By default, we'll be getting only one thing, and if you're having multiple access groups, then we can able to switch it here. So here we'll be having something like a switch application if you're having multiple access groups. So based on that, we can able to switch it. Okay, one operator can have multiple access groups, and one access group can have multiple operator IDs. So for this particular CHG administrator, I can able to have 4 administrators. So meaning one access group is having multiple operator IDs as well. And based on this access group only, PRPC will be deciding which application has to be launched and what is the thing that has to be launched here. If I'm given with access with only one application, that is implementation application 1, and if I'm trying to request for any rule which is there in another application, then it should not be populating it for me. So PRPC has to block that. So it will be running on algorithm, and what are the rules it is picking up. For sure, it will be picking up all the rules from the database. So what are the rules it is picking up? It has to again segregate and finalize whether this rule is really applicable as per this access group or not. So that will be again filtered out, and it will be pushed it here. If no results are found, it will be throwing the same error saying like no results. Okay. So this is the concept of access group. If at all, if I'm trying to create one new access group for the manager, so access group is already there. If I'm trying to create one more operator ready for the manager, so by default, manager should be given with his own access only. So let me create one new operator ID. So I'm giving something like CHG manager. So let me give the operator ID also same. So I want to mark him as a manager. So give the necessary access group and make sure you don't have admin studio as well as the this one. So by default, if I just save this, and this is my operator ID, right? So let me log in with the same operator ID. So I'm launching another session. Password will be same. So I'm just logging here. What are we getting? So why are we still getting admin studio? Actually, you should not be getting admin studio. So this is with the manager login, right? Okay, it's still with the administrator. It is not being saved, I think. So I'm saving it. You are not authorized to create. Okay. So this is with the manager. I'm just logging off and logging back. So what is the portal we got? So by default, he will be getting this portal only. He should not be given access to Shift to Admin Studio as well as the Dev Studio. And that too, he will be given access to this application. So whatever the thing we are defining in the access group, his access, his application, his role, everything will be decided from here on. Okay. So let me give some extra access to him. So I'm logging with the administrator login. So I should be getting this one. And this particular operator ID, I want to give access to the admin studio also. So here by default we'll be getting only his own portal. So let me add admin studio as well, or the development studio. So developer only, no? So I want to launch this by default and saving it. Okay, developer only. Okay, I'm just logging off. Even I want to log off from here also and log in back. So this particular operator ID is given access to the development studio as well. So that is the reason he will be directly getting dev studio. In the real time, this will not be possible. Okay. So if I just want to make some modifications here. So can I make any modifications here? So what about the check-in checkout concept? What about the delete thing? Okay. So we will be given only restricted access. He cannot able to make modifications. He will be just given with view access only. Okay. Why? Because PRPC has to decide that this is a manager, and manager is just given with the access to the development studio. So since he is being manager, he should not be given access to make modifications to the existing rules. So that is the reason everything will be decided in the access group only. So whatever the application I want and what is the rule sets, everything will be decided here. So if I'm trying to request for any rule, so since I'm in the application implementation application one, if I'm trying to request for any rule, what PRPC has to do? PRPC has to identify the application name based on my access group. So based on the operator name, access group will be identified and it will be identifying the application name. So once the application name has been identified, it can able to pull out all the necessary rule sets applicable to me. Okay. So if the requesting rule is applicable only from this particular rule sets, then it will be putting it for me, else it will be showing something like authorization failed. Okay, so this is all about rule authorization. So PRPC has to undergo many things. It has to just check for the rule whether it is having created in the multiple applications or not, and it has to just check for whether the rule is having in the multiple versions or the multiple rule sets or multiple classes, and it is, if it is having the multiple versions, and if the highest version is either made available or not available, or if it is made available, it has to just pick that. Before that, it has to identify the circumstancing or not, everything. It has to identify many things. Okay, so these many checks it has to perform here. So for that, PRPC will be running one algorithm on top of that. So that will be the concept of rule resolution. We'll discuss that in the next class. In doubts? Clear, right?